Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I want to introduce you to Imran Hasan, who is a real guy involved in our community in so many different areas. And he wanted to come on the show tonight to talk about Crime Stoppers Month. January is Crime Stoppers Month. And I think that, there's a lot of issues that we need to be aware of, and that Imran is all about making sure that us, the public, are made aware of them. Imran, how are you? Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Brian, for the kind invitation. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and happy to talk about January being Crime Stoppers Month.
So tell me, you've been involved in Crime Stoppers for like more than a decade, haven't you?
Well, I think officially I've been on board as the chair for 2 years and joined prior to COVID. But I feel, Crime Stoppers is in my blood because I grew up with the Crime Stoppers program as something that we all look towards for safety and security and just resilience in our communities, because we had an opportunity to help keep our community safe by reporting suspicious or illegal activities anonymously through the tip line, which is 1-800-222-TIPS.
So you are chair and Crime Stopper Month. What is Crime Stopper Month all about?
Well, it's really about raising awareness, about the program. I'd like to start off by saying that Crime Stoppers was founded in 1976 in the United States by an American-born police officer who was trying to solve a crime, and he needed the help of the public and the media. So he formed this program called Crime Stoppers. And, from that day forward, it continued to expand. We have 37 chapters in Ontario, 87 chapters in Canada, and over 1,200 chapters worldwide.
And these chapters are typically municipalities?
So great question, Brian. The chapters are community-led organizations that are independent of the police, but work in collaboration with concerned citizens, the media, and police services locally to bring that information that's reported by the public to the attention of the appropriate law enforcement agencies, who then take that information and help protect the community by either preventing a crime from happening or solving a crime that's already occurred.
And is it primarily this tip line?
It is 1-800-222-8477, which is TIPS.
Do Crime Stoppers do other things other than just sponsor the tip line?
So as a program, we are really community facing, and we are representative of the community, and we're in the community all the time, organizing different initiatives. And over the past 2 years under my watch, we've organized some different community engagements. We've done some fun stuff like a hot sauce challenge with first responders to see who can eat the hottest, peppers. And we've done some serious stuff as well, like the seniors live care tour, where we brought safety tips to the seniors and how to, remain safe. We've done some other fun stuff like a car show where we work with, Peel Regional Police, OPP, as well as the Ministry of Transportation Ontario to bring road safety tips to the public. So we're always doing something engaging and bringing our first responders, putting them in a non-emergency environment, with the public, so that we can really humanize that relationship and help build those, those bridges between the public and the police and our other first responders.
And what's the benefit of that? Is it just to have people feel more comfortable with their first responders? Like how does getting them more comfortable with first responders actually help?
Well, I feel from my own personal experience, once you can establish that level of trust with someone, you feel more likely to be able to share information with that person. And in this case, when it's our first responders, we feel that, we have a trusted relationship with our police, fire, and paramedics. And Brian, that when there's an emergency, and our first responders are on the scene, they're responding to an emergency. They don't really have time for shaking hands and taking selfies and, all kinds of pleasantries. They're really there for a purpose. So they don't really have a opportunity to build that relationship. And so what Crime Stoppers also does is provides a platform for our first responders to establish that, human to human interaction with the public, which really does help break down barriers and, help build resilience in the community.
And this tip line, how many crimes does it actually help solve?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I came prepared with an answer. In 2022, just last year, we recorded over 2,000 tips. Through our tip line, the police were able to lay over 180 charges. And that resulted in over $500,000 of stolen property and cash recovered, as well as over $1 million of drugs seized. That's just in 1 year. From the inception of the program, and when the police services started recording the data, we've received over 41,000 tips. The police have laid over 5,000 charges, and the stolen property and cash recovered in the tune of $5.5 million and over $87.5 million of drugs seized and removed from our streets, making our communities safer.
And those are all Mississauga statistics?
These are all Peel statistics, which include Brampton as well as Caledon. Yes, sir.
Fascinating. Obviously, it sounds like Crime Stoppers has a positive impact on our society. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back with Imran Hasan, the chair of Crime Stoppers Peel, in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. It's interesting to have Imran Hasan, the chair of Peel Crime Stoppers, with us tonight, talking about Crime Stopper Month, which is January, and raising awareness for their tip lines that he says have solved, a huge amount of crime and recovered a lot of drugs and stolen goods in our community. And so, thank you for that positive role that you play in our community, Imran. Crime seems to be going up in Peel, is it?
Well, statistics are showing that crime is on the rise. And, I think COVID-19 has certainly accelerated certain types of crimes. And I know that there are conventional crimes that, we've talked about, like thefts and break-ins. There's also the non-conventional crimes that possibly don't go reported. And I'm thinking of, things that happen in schools and places of worship and perhaps places of learning, where people are committing crimes like hate crimes or, extortion and sexting and in seniors' homes, just elder abuse and so many things that, go unreported because people just don't think about, well, maybe that's a crime that needs to be reported, but it does. And again, having a anonymous tip line allows someone to be able to report without the fear of reprisal, knowing that they will never have to testify in court, that they can report what activity is suspicious or illegal in their community, and know that they're doing it for the right reasons and they're helping keep their community safe. And you can do that by calling 1-800-222-8477, which is TIPS.
And so it's completely anonymous? You're not asked to provide your name or number?
In fact, Brian, if you were to call in and inadvertently either implicate yourself by giving your name or making a suggestion like my next door neighbor and giving your next door neighbor's address, we will make sure that information gets redacted from the report before we hand over that information to the appropriate law enforcement agencies so that you are not implicated inadvertently and you never have to testify in court.
So, I've called the police a few times, and as soon as I talk to them, it's, what's your name, what's your address, what's your telephone number? So they're really interested in having the witness and having the information. Is it helpful not providing all that information?
Well, it certainly, empowers people, those who are reluctant to contact police, and perhaps because of the interaction that they've had with the police, in the past. And I think of newcomers, Brian, those people who have chosen Canada as their home. Perhaps they have not really had a positive interaction with police from the countries they've come from. So then when they arrive to Canada, they may be reluctant to contact police here. And so there's this, this tool that's available to them that they can contact the police indirectly by contacting Peel Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 and reporting that activity. It may be someone in their family. It may be somebody in their community. It may be their next door neighbor. And oftentimes people are reluctant to contact the police because they don't want to necessarily testify against their neighbor or family member for that matter. So when you report through Crime Stoppers, you're protected by the Constitution. You never have to testify in court.
By the Constitution of what?
Your constitutional rights in Canada under the Charter of Freedom. So you are not required to testify in court.
So you can provide information, and you're not required to testify.
Correct. Okay.
Carjackings, car theft seems to be like skyrocketing. Is that true, or is that just what I hear around the town?
Well, I mean, there's car thefts and there's carjackings. So absolutely, you've got people's cars being stolen from their driveways, and that's because of the wonderful technology we have in the keyless, sort of entry and the push button starts. These bad actors have figured out a way to be able to steal the signal from your remote fob, your key fob, and then program a laptop and then reprogram a new key fob and then steal the car from your driveway as if it was their own. Carjackings are another phenomenon which we've seen also increase, and that is, people are forcefully removed from their cars and people drive away with other people's property stolen, which is a terrible thing to hear about, and unfortunately it's happening, and it's happening far too often, my friend.
Why is it going up? Why, particularly the car theft? Why is it going up so dramatically? Other than your technology thing, why is this happening?
What's the motivation for crime? I think there's just I think a growing concern in the community about not having certain access to perhaps I wouldn't even call them luxuries. I'd call them necessities. I can talk about food insecurity as well, and how people are unfortunately depending on food banks more, and for those who aren't confident enough and have the pride to go to a food bank and ask for the food, you hear about people now stealing food from grocery stores. So perhaps people, and I'm not a psychologist, but perhaps people are committing more crimes now because they feel the need for survival, and they're doing things not to hurt someone but just to help protect them, not necessarily protect themselves, but to provide for themselves.
You're far kinder because than I am. My unemployment is an all-time low, and so I think if anyone's willing to work, they can get jobs. At least in the past, it may get worse in the future with recession, but I think it's been pretty good. And the unemployment rolls, as I said, are the lowest they've almost been on history, and we created a huge amount of jobs in the last month. So I don't think it's out of need, and I think that that suggests that people have a justification. I think our morals, our attitudes, aren't as righteous and as right today as they were previously. And I worry about some of this being sort of discourse in society where we seem to be more angry and more partisan and more protest oriented and victim oriented. I think that we excuse behavior today in society that we wouldn't have excused before. And so therefore people feel more license to get out there and do bad things.
Well, we've seen it, Brian, in the people's driving behaviors, right? Far too often people are not stopping at stop signs. They're going through red lights. They're speeding, in school zones. They're just speeding generally overall. And to your point, it's not the same values. You and I were raised on, respecting other people, not trespassing against other people, and just being mindful towards other people. I think these days people are anxious. They're, in a hurry. They tend to just think about themselves more than think about others. And I think those are, certainly contributing factors.
What do you think causes that?
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, just upbringing and, whether it's, the institutions that, we have in our communities that help shape the minds and souls of people and, even our own family values, right? Growing up in homes where, I remember growing up at a certain time, once the street lights came on, I was expected to be in front of my house, and that's as a kid playing. And as I got older, I remember being given a curfew and having to be home by a certain time, and even addressing, my elders as Mr. and Mrs. Despite the fact that my friends' parents would say, "Oh, just call me Brian," I'd say, "No, it's Mr. Crombie." That's the way I was brought up, and I think those are the values that we're talking about that instill respect and understanding and courtesy and professionalism, in human beings. And, I think that may be something that we're losing.
Why have we lost that?
Well, I think we're just, general interest in caring and spending time with each other and, just being kind and generous.
I agree, but we've lost that.
Yeah, it seems like there's just less kindness in in the world, but I still give the benefit of doubt to people that those people who tend to trespass against people may be doing so ignorantly and inadvertently, that they just need to be given sort of a direction to the right path, and then hopefully they can correct themselves.
Is it because religion plays less of a role in our society today?
I mean, that may certainly be. I know that, you and I practice our faith, if I can say, on a regular basis. And I think that's definitely something that helps shape who we are as people. I say, having fear or respect for our Creator and for a higher being, and having respect and understanding for our fellow human beings. I think those are basic values that we need to always keep in mind.
Do you think social media has a negative impact?
Well, you know what? I saw a disturbing video somebody sent to me prior to the show coming on about a young person in school assaulting another young person, and it's on social media, and back in the days when you and I grew up, I think something like that was reported immediately, and it wasn't glorified, and it wasn't, publicized. Not to say that we shouldn't let the public know that this happens, but it shouldn't be entertainment for the world to see. And I think, you're right. Social media tends to distort the intention of the message. And I think many people do it for the right reasons, but it gets socialized and distorted for the wrong reasons.
What about politics? Do you think politics has had a negative impact?
Well, I mean, politics has certainly become more divisive, my friend. Once upon a time, we were more collegial and more respectful and, more kind and respectful to one another. But I think it's becoming, more divisive, and, there's more far left and far right. We've kind of swayed away from the middle ground, and I don't know. I'm a bit of a sort of a forward-leaning guy. I'd like to hold hands with everyone in the community and help give a hand up to those who need it, and just continue to give whatever I can to help make our community safer and stronger and more vibrant.
So there's been numerous different commentators, research scientists, social scientists, et cetera, that have suggested that there's been a decline in what they call social capital. And I think that this is really a problem in our society today. And I think that there are numerous causes of this. And I think that, lack of involvement in religious activities, whatever the religion happens to be, lack of involvement in civic activities. And you're a great example of someone who has been very involved in civic activities, but regrettably, volunteerism is down dramatically. Lack of involvement in social clubs, not even civic activities, but just social clubs, whether it be the Kiwanis or the Rotary or Lions or the Moose or whatever those clubs are, bridge clubs and chess clubs and badminton clubs and things like that are also down. So people are no longer as involved in their community. And I think that there's too much of society that ends up being very individualistic, whether it be social media where we're living in echo chambers and listening to the conspiracy theory or the non-conspiracy theory or this political channel or that political channel or this political commentator. And all of that ends up being far more divisive, partisan, emotional, and non-persuasive, not trying to actually get someone to agree with your position, just trying to oppose someone. I think that the art of persuasion, the art of discussion, the art of talking it out has been lost, where all we do is yell at each other and appeal to our own basis, our own small little groups, rather than actually getting out there on the doorstep and trying to explain to someone what our point of view is and why we think it's a reasonable one, and persuading someone. And then I think the last thing, and you touched on this, is we used to think about someone as an opponent in politics or in society or in business or, wherever it is, that was sort of like, an opponent in a soccer game where you had respect for them. And, I saw a football game last night where after the game, everyone hugged from the opposing teams. They had a lot of respect for each other, even if during the game they were like hitting each other really hard. But after the game, they shook hands or they hugged, they congratulated, they asked for autographs because they had a ton of respect for who their opponent is. To an era right now where too often people on a different political stripe are enemies. They're not opponents, they're enemies. They're not someone you respect or someone you hate. And I've never seen it more than in the by-election recently in Mississauga Lakeshore, where people hated the leader of one party or hated the leader of the other party. It wasn't, I disagree with Justin Trudeau, I disagree with Pierre Poilievre. It was, I hate Justin Trudeau or I hate Pierre Poilievre. It was a vitriol, emotional reaction like I've not seen ever before. And I think we've lost social nicety, social discourse, social capital. I think it's a real problem. And I think that because of that, crime's up.
Well, I'm going to say, just to add to what you said, we've lost our moral compass, right? I think people need to maybe reset and just reflect and think about, how grateful we really are to be living in a community. And I'm going to use Mississauga and Peel Region as an example, where we are so fortunate to have this protection, this safety, this security, this resilience in our community, and we all make this community what it is, and each and every one of us have a role to play. And community safety is a shared responsibility, and we can't leave it to police alone to help keep our community safe. We need to work together as friends, as family, as neighbors, even as strangers. When you see someone on the side of a road whose car may be in distress, pull over and offer them to use your CAA card if you don't have the physical ability to help somebody. But if you do, maybe help them get off the road safely, or get much needed gas, or help them change their tire, or whatever it is and sometimes just the gesture, right? Just pull over and ask someone, hey, listen, do you need any help? No, I'm fine. I've called CAA and, help is on the way. Okay, well, great. Thank you. And stay safe and move on. And I think, that's just a form of charity, if I could say that, Brian, is, offering someone a smile and just a salutation.
Well, it's the golden rule in so many different religions. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Imran, good discussion. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with Imran Hasan in just 2 minutes talking about Peel Crime Stoppers Month. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Imran Hasan. He is the chair of Peel Crime Stoppers. January is Crime Stoppers Month. We've been talking about their line that you can call to provide tips. What's the line number again, please, Imran?
1-800-222-8477. That's tips.
That you can call if you want to give. And Imran has underlined that you can do this, and you need to do it anonymously. Even if you don't do it anonymously, they will redact your name and your telephone number and information that can be that can identify you. And so it really is an anonymous tip line that you can call. And that he's told us about how many how many crimes that they've helped stop and how much stolen property they've helped regain. Imran, I got to ask you, it seems, and maybe I'm wrong in this regard, but it seems like, police, first responders have had a tough year. There's been numerous deaths in the line of duty. We've had some recent funerals of policemen that have been quite emotional. What's going on? Is there more fatalities in first responders right now? Are people's attitude toward first responders different today?
Unfortunately, the statistics are proving that, and I think we really need to look more closely at that relationship between our first responders and the public, and really just kind of take a closer look also at the judicial system, and what happens when a bad actor is arrested. And then goes through the process of the courts, and then perhaps even jail, and then being released from jail, and then recommitting a crime. I mean, it's far too often, unfortunately, the crimes that we're hearing about, especially those against our first responders community, and more specifically against the police, which we've seen a rise in, that needs to really be looked at more closely. And I think we really need to strengthen our legal system, and not from an enforcement point of view, but from a judicial point of view.
So you're suggesting the people that have been the people that have actually committed these crimes and committed murder against our first responders are repeat offenders that have been allowed out of the penal system too quickly. Is that what you're arguing?
Yeah, and I think those criminals need to be held accountable, and we need to strengthen those terms under which they're held accountable and held and incarcerated, and perhaps we need to find ways to rehabilitate people like that if they can be. I think we need to find we talked earlier about creating a civil society. How do you do that? You do that through education and awareness. And then, there's some people who just can't reform. They can't find the right path or the straight path. And, we need to find a safe space for them to be kept, so that they're not back in society, and that we're not, creating a dangerous environment in neighborhoods and communities where, peace and loving peacekeeping and loving people like yourself and so many others in your neighborhood and mine are trying to do, and trying to live our everyday lives, and just go for walks and go to work and go to school and go to church. We just need to be a little more concerned, and make sure that this information gets to our elected officials.
I interviewed a fascinating young lady who's a hip hop singer, who was in her youth a repeat offender. I think all minor crimes, but a repeat offender. And she was very critical of the penal system. And what she said is, number one, that the best crime education you could get is in prison. And she said that there was really good social capital in the prison, where you formed long-term, very close friendships with gang members, and were recruited into gangs that would reformulate once people were out of the prison system. And then she said it was very difficult, if almost impossible, to get reintegrated into society once she was released, such that crime was one of the only ways that you could actually survive. That no one wanted to lend her money, no one wanted to give her a credit card, no one wanted to rent her a house, no one wanted to give her a job, and that as a society we don't forgive. We label someone a criminal forever if they've been a criminal once or twice. And then finally, she said there was incredible racism, and that the percentage of people in prison that were Black, African Canadians, or Indigenous were multiples of what the proportion they were in population in general. And said that she didn't think that they actually committed that much more crime. It was just that the penal system was both the police system, the crime stopping system, and then the prison penal system was far less lenient, far more tougher on colored people that weren't white. What do you think of those criticisms?
Well, I mean, and the bias doesn't stop there, Brian. I mean, we can think about gender bias as well, right? I mean, what about LGBTQ communities, right? What about just women versus men, the male female population? That's unfortunate, and it's human nature, and we need to just be more forgiving, right? I mean, I always try to lead by that example, and I don't stereotype people, and whether it's a race, it's an ethnicity, it's a language, it's whatever the barrier may be, gender. I think we all need to, as I said earlier, just reflect, be more mindful, be more respectful, and be forgiving, and put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and say, like, if that was my son, my daughter, myself, my mom or my dad, I mean, how would I want that person to be treated? And I think that's just something we go back to, values, and whether it be, family values, community values, we need to be just more mindful and respectful.
Hate crimes you mentioned earlier today.
Yes, sir.
Are hate crimes on the rise? The rise?
Well, we don't want to talk about it, but yeah, whether it's against Indigenous communities, Black communities, whether it be against a certain religious faith group, or gender, yes, absolutely. And my biggest concern, Brian, is not necessarily what's being reported; it's what's not being reported. Again, back to people are reluctant to contact the police and report the crime, perhaps because the fear of reprisal. So then, they've got this tool available to them where they can anonymously report the crime at 1-800-222-TIPS. You can also go on our website, crimestoppers.ca, and you can report the crime through our software online. And again, we don't record your IP address. We don't record your caller ID. We redact any information that might implicate who you are and where you live. And so that truly, the information that you're providing is going to remain anonymous, your identity will be protected, and you'll never have to testify in court.
Why are hate crimes up?
Well, I think you and I have been talking earlier about just lack of I use the word tolerance, but tolerance is such a negative term. I'm going to use the term respect, lack of respect for each other, and the divisiveness that's created through politics, and just a lot of negative energy. And I really think that there's so much peace and love in the world to be shared, and we all have a role to play in that, and lead through whatever examples we can, whether it's through charity or through just giving our neighbors a hand, whether it's clearing their driveway in the wintertime, or helping rake the leaves in the fall, or cut the grass in the spring and summer. I mean, there's so much we can do to help our neighbors and build, more welcoming and safer and stronger communities. And you mentioned earlier, belonging to and contributing to, any organization, whether it be, a service organization, whether it be a club, or whether it be a sports team. Like, get involved in your community, get engaged, and make the community what it is that you want it to be. Don't expect that somebody else is going to do it. And back to community safety and well-being, it's a shared responsibility, Brian. It's not left to the police alone and our first responders to protect our community. We all have a role to play, and we can do so by getting involved, getting engaged, coming out, supporting different initiatives, whether it be Field Crime Stoppers or any other organization that's trying to do good. Get involved and make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Imran. But you're a far more, maybe just lately, you're a far more positive person than I am. I don't remember 10, 20 years ago hearing about anti-Semitism like we have from, very well-known artists, Hollywood stars, etc., and former presidents, frankly. I don't remember hearing about white supremacy the way that I have in the last while. I don't remember. Maybe I'm completely losing my memory, but I don't remember people going into mosques or synagogues or whatnot and shooting people with mass shootings. It seems like we're becoming a society that is far more hateful. Aren't we?
And it's not limited to just places of worship. It's happening in schools. It's happening in shopping malls. It's happening. This behavior is spreading into all aspects of our lives. And again, I tend to look at the glass always half full, Brian. And I try to leave every day better than I found it, and hopefully, leave this world one day, better than it was, and just do what I can to help, lift up our community, make it more resilient and more vibrant, so that our future generations can have a safer and a more enjoyable environment to live, work, and play and raise their families in the future if they choose.
And I admire that about you, and I always have, but I still come back to, it seems like it's getting worse. Am I wrong in that? Is my perception wrong?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say, not to be a downer, just to be, somebody that's optimistic. There's always going to be something that's, negative in our environment, in our perspective. But I think we got to find ways to, look for that silver lining and see what we can do to, turn things around. And, if you see someone with a frown, find ways to help them turn it upside down. And we can't always wake up every day, full of cheer, but we gotta have hope, right? We have to believe that, there is a light at the end of that tunnel, my friend.
I drove to Ottawa this past weekend, and there were a bunch of trucks and SUVs that had Canadian flags in it and F Trudeau on it, bumper stickers. And it was almost as if the Canadian flag had been taken over by this group of people that had this very derogatory, negative view of our prime minister, and felt like they were justified in putting words that I would have had my mouth washed out with soap when I was a kid if I had used that language. And yet they did it with a Canadian flag. Like, it was as if they thought that they owned Canada, and they had this attitude toward, and I didn't see other cars driving with Canadian flags. It was only these cars that had the Canadian flags. What's happening?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to, be disrespectful towards someone. It's another thing to be disrespectful to, the leader of our country, our prime minister. Like him or not, he does hold a position of authority and deserves a certain level of respect. You may not like him or even have voted for him, but you certainly can't use derogatory language towards him. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And that,
I don't think it's the right thing to use, and I don't think you should be doing it with a Canadian flag. Like, I think
desecrating our flag by
Canadian. What they're saying is Canadian, and I've talked to too many people recently that say that they've tarnished the reputation of the Canadian flag. The Canadian flag is more like the Confederate flag. It's no longer the flag that we were so proud to wear around, on our backpack as we were traveling around Europe or Asia or wherever it was that we went. We're going to take a break and come back after 2 minutes of messages with Imran Hasan. We're going to wrap it all up, and we're going to see if we've got some solutions with these problems of crime and animosity and racism and sexism and unbelievable derogatory comments that are being made day in and day out in our society today. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm chatting today with Imran Hasan. He is the chair of Peel Crime Stoppers. And we've had an interesting conversation, and I think we've sort of agreed and disagreed. And maybe I'm a half glass empty guy tonight, and you're the half glass full guy. But I think we both agreed that what we need in our society is more social capital, more civic capital, more participation in society. And Imran, you are one of those individuals that has done that. You have done it with your religion. You've done it with your Rotary. You've done it with MBOT. You've done it with food banks. You've done it with your Christmas Santa breakfasts. You've done it running for politics, and you've done it with Crime Stoppers. You've done it with the Mississauga Arts Council. I probably could go on. And so I want to congratulate you and thank you for the role you play. And I guess bottom line, I think we need more people like you. And I think what we need to do is we need to give people, you as an example of how you can benefit yourself and society by getting involved. Because I think the problem's been that we've been too individualistic in the last little while. We've only been worried about ourselves when we got to be more community oriented. And you are the epitome of someone who is community oriented. And so thank you for that. So tell us about what we're going to expect from Peel Crime Stoppers in the next little while as part of Peel Crime Stopping Month.
Well, during the month of January, it's the official month of Crime Stoppers throughout the city of Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. There'll be announcements being made in City Council to declare January as Crime Stoppers Month. Clock towers will be lit in red and white throughout the month at different times. We'll be making announcements as Crime Stoppers in Peel about the different initiatives that we'll be undertaking throughout the course of the year. We'll be organizing car washes. We'll be doing car shows. We'll be doing document shredding fundraisers. We'll be doing St. Paddy's Day fundraiser. We've got so many activities lined up, Brian. I could go on. We don't have that much time on the show, but I invite the audience to visit peelcrimestoppers.ca. And you know, being on Saga 960, we have our own radio show. It's called Tips by Crime Stoppers, and it's on at Sunday at 11 a.m. You can come on Saga 960 a.m. and listen to our podcast, or you can go on our website and listen to a pre-recorded episode. We have 15 already recorded and so many more exciting topics. Thank you, Brian, for this opportunity to help raise awareness for Peel Crime Stoppers. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for all those kind words.
What's the tips line?
1-800-222-8477. That's 1-800-222-TIPS.
Imran Hasan, chair of Peel Crime Stoppers, thanks for joining us and telling us a little bit about Crime Stoppers. And thanks for, having a good conversation about what we need to make our society a better society, because I think we got to talk about this. And we got to hopefully have some people that are willing to invest themselves, their time, their effort, their talents in trying to improve our society. And Imran Hasan is one of the guys that actually goes out day in and day out and does that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Good night.
Stay safe.